Hey there, I just wanted to go ahead and start showing you guys how I use my Google Forms in my classroom. I think this is a good way to get around the paper pencil stuff in my classroom. Um, my students' handwriting is not very good, but I think Google Forms is a really good way. So here's kind of how I started off. So just my title. This is a Unit 3 test that I use in my United States military, my United States wars and conflicts class, specifically the one that ranging from the Revolutionary War to the kind of through their imperialistic time. So this is a Unit 3 test. I had to do this just the other day for one of my students who broke his arm, and kind of accommodating with his abilities. So I started off with just making a really clear test. That is really kind of just for my part, but I try to make my descriptions as detailed as possible, giving my students everything that they need. So here we are answering the questions to the best of their ability, making sure that they are reading all of the questions. This one does not have any questions that have kind of multiple questions or anything kind of tricky in it. It's a little bit easier. I always put into my instructions exactly how many points the test is going to be. Now this isn't going, I'm not going to put the entire test in here, but I always bold that too, just so it kind of pops out for students just a little bit. So we'll start off with my first question here, explaining the role that Texas's fight for independence explain the role that Texas's fight for independence had in the Mexican-American War. Now, this one specifically on this test is worth 4 points, so I put that in there as well so students have a visual, and kind of pardon my inability to multitask here. So what I like about Google Forms is you can kind of really choose whatever kind of question you want it to be: a short answer, a paragraph answer. You can choose multiple choice, checkboxes, drop downs. You can upload files, do linear scales, and all of this stuff. So it really helps you out there. You can also add an image of some sorts here for the question. You can also embed videos from YouTube, so students have to watch those in order to kind of help them out. So this question here specifically is going to be a long answer text. So down here I have this as a required question that they have to answer. It also shows kind of what the description of the question is going to be. So over here I can click this plus sign in the circle and add a new question. And now we're going to do who was the president of the United States during the Mexican-American War. This one I have worth 2 points. We talked about the president of this time quite a bit during this unit, James K. Polk, so bold that for 2 points. And then I'm going to have this be a multiple choice question. So I have Abraham Lincoln, James K. Polk, Andrew Johnson. Then I always throw in George Washington as one of my answers on these. I think students either are able to 100% cross that one off and say, yep, this is the wrong one, but I like to put that in there just for the sake of it. So now we have 6 points in here. What I really like about this, and you can't see it on here because I haven't shared it, but once students do start to kind of get the test done, it shows me all of their student responses, and it comes up with charts, and you can go by student, you can go by question, and it is really nice here. I can also hit link to sheets here, and it'll create a Google sheet with all of that information. So I have that on just one document, one form there. but I just don't have any responses here. And I can add it here so I get email destinations, or I can have responses go to a specific location. Now in settings, what I do typically is I make this a quiz, which will specifically it'll show the point values, it'll have set answers, so it isn't just a kind of like, what song do you want to have at the school dance? It shows kind of exactly what those answers are. And now you have two options for grade releasing. You can either have it immediately after each submission or later after manual review. I usually have it set on immediately after each submission. I don't have it set up for point values, just because a lot of these I do grade still kind of by hand a little bit. I read through, give them feedback on the paragraph answers, but this does give them for multiple choice ones or something that has a very specific answer. It will still show them if they are right or wrong on that one. Now I set these for locked mode, so nobody outside of our district can take this. They have to use their school provided Chromebook in order to answer these, but it also doesn't allow them to open tabs or other applications, so they can't go Google the answers, and I'm not constantly monitoring my GoGuardian. Shows them what questions they got wrong, what questions they got right. I take off point values here. You can click responses here, and it will send me a copy of who posted that. So if I don't have this in unlocked mode right now, but they don't always have to give me their answer, it'll kind of come through as anonymous, but locked mode and quiz modes immediately sends me their name and their email address of like who answered this and stuff. Locked mode also limits it to one response, so they can't go back and retake it. Presentation here also, I like this. They can show the progress bar, so on what question are you. You can also shuffle question order, so each student is getting a different order for each question. I typically have shuffle question order turned off, just because that way I don't have to go through and look at those answers. Rather, I can go through and know exactly, kind of following my key that way. And it also gives you a couple of different defaults of how you can have your form set up. But once you hit publish here, I could send it to my students. I always have these pre-made in my Google Drive, so when I go into Google Classroom, that's where I would post it, and then once they click on that link, they're able to go. But I use Google Forms for a lot of my tests, mostly so I can really kind of decipher what my students are reading, since their handwriting is not incredible, but it also gives away from their kind of monotony of looking at paper and pencil. So this is Google Forms.